Hey everybody, welcome to Monday. Yes, no glasses, boss fight, makeup, still wearing contact lenses. Don't forget, I realize I look completely different. But I guess being a little scared is appropriate for this video because Resident Evil 8 is out. I will be playing it on Twitch this Tuesday at 6 p.m., this Thursday at 1. Thursday's always loosey-goosey on start times, 1 p.m., but we do earlier on Thursdays for people in Europe who can't stay up like ridiculously late to join Twitch. But based on the reviews, it seems like it's a return to the extreme silliness of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 4, with some legitimately scary moments and you know, that being followed tension, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I think this game's gonna do exceptionally well because we need a game that right now that makes being scared less scary. Leanna, what are you talking about? If you like this stuff, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. The uniqueness of the Resident Evil series is that it is not scariness, right? It is not the constant, oh my god, of something like Outlast or the real gore of Amnesia, stuff like that. Though, I mean, I guess you could say Amnesia gets silly in places, but it doesn't have the loftiness of something like, I'm dating myself here, Clive Barker's Undying. Although Clive Barker's Undying had a certain amount of camp to it. It doesn't even have the high concept of an underrated classic like Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. It definitely doesn't have the tension of a Dead Space. And all of you going are but Resident Evil 7. And that's the thing. Resident Evil 7, I think, got too terrifying. I remember when they were doing the VR demos for Resident Evil 7, and it was completely freaking the hell out of people who did it at trade shows. I was one of the few people brave enough to try Kitchen back in the day before anybody really knew what it was. And even that shit was, oh my god. And I think the Resident Evil team recognized that the thing that makes Resident Evil great is that they still know how to be frightening, but they create these big, iconic, ridiculous, goofy, but, still sort of, they're cool because they're not trying too hard kind of thing. I mean, Resident Evil 4, for example, you get that terrifying chainsaw dude with the particularly gory death that almost everybody got caught in because they didn't know the chainsaw dude was coming. And, then there's a part in the game where you're being chased by a giant moving statue piloted by a little person in, I remember him wearing some kind of Napoleon type outfit or something like that. But like, that is Resident Evil. Everything gets thrown at the wall. You don't quite know what's coming from one minute to the next, and that's what makes it good. It interposes the scary with the fun, like all the really cool, fun, really stupid horror movies in the 90s that, 80s and 90s that Resident Evil borrowed from. And like I said, I think that's a game for now because there are very few people that aren't living in a deep state of anxiety right now because of either, COVID or the isolation or a combination of both, or, just not quite knowing what's going on in the world. And so, games like Animal Crossing were inherently comforting, but games like Resident Evil allow you to be scared in a way that you can control, right? And in a lot of ways, that makes it's good escapism from the day-to-day, oh my God, I can't control this. But I find with me, it gives you context for when real life things are scary. You can kind of go like, well, this is kind of like that, if you're processing it in a healthy way. And I think that's really important. I know some people have said it's still too intense. And I mean, obviously no game is for everyone, right? And I find it amusing that, reviewers who are trying to be above it all seem not to know how to handle the fan standing for Lady Dimitrescu. I'm amused by this for two reasons. One, they're really still trying to hang on to that games are misogynist a-holes narrative, which, falls apart when guys are going, step on me, mommy. But the other is that when things are tough, when there is a lot of deprivation, historically, art tends towards zuftig women, rounder curves, bigger boobs, taller. If you look at the pinup art of, World War II, that was a time of rationing, right? There are a bunch of theories as to why this is so, but something about voluptuous women become appealing when resources are scarce, times are tough, and people can't, do the sensory overload in other ways. And the thing that's interesting about Lady Dimitrescu, and this is not totally out of history, but they went, whole hog on this, is that she's kind of scary. And the fact that they gave her sort of a 1920s, 1940s look, I don't think is accidental, because those sort of femme fatales, like they're connected to that era, right? You don't need the bad girl. You had women being code crackers and pilots and all this very active stuff back then. And everybody was like right on. And that's why what they tried to do in the 50s didn't work, because they tried to force that genie back in the bottle. When people, men and women and everyone in between and beyond, are given free reign, they want interesting, unique, larger than life, in Lady Dimitrescu's case, literally female characters alongside the male characters. They want that. They want the fantasy. They want the goofiness. They want we know it's not real, and that's what makes it good. That's what makes it fun, kind of thing. And whenever the powers that be try to stuff that back in the bottle, there tends to be a revolt against it. Now, the powers that be always try to stop that revolt, to shame that revolt. It never tends to work long term. We look at, the Prohibition era. We look at, the resistance to the counterculture in the 60s. The powers that be always try to say, no, bad, this is, think of the children, all that stuff, and it never quite works. And, I mean, the fact that a Japanese company is doing it when all the Western developers kind of got scared and wouldn't dare, I think is poignant. I hope that Western developers see how gamers are reacting to, we'll call her the box character. She's not the protagonist, but in first-person games, the primary antagonist tends to be the most important character in terms of the color of the game. Do you remember the name of the playable character of Far Cry 3? No, but you remember Vas Montenegro, right? Like, he was on the box. Same with Pagan Min. So, same with Giancarlo, the guy who played Gus Fring, and why do I always forget his name? He's gonna be the villain in Far Cry 6. Villains on the box, I think, are a gaming trope that needs more attention. Because villains on the box tell us a lot about, first of all, what kind of games they are. But also, it says something about the psyche of gamers who enjoy those types of games, and really puts the lie to the idea that when you're talking about diversity and inclusion, the playable character is also is always the most significant character regarding inclusion, right? The fact that Far Cry 3 gets no credit for having like a Latino dude be the most recognizable character in the game. Yeah, it was fucked up, but still, it always works better with gamers when a game doesn't go, point, look how diverse we are. But of course, it doesn't get all those good people points. And I don't think it should, right? Work that comes from a place of art always tends to have a much more profound effect on, I'm not going to say people's choices, how it's persuasive, but people internalize the message much more when games are coming from a place of art as opposed to, a place of we're gonna make a point here, right? I mean, the classic game for me of that is the game Papo and Yo. Canadian company, minority media, PS3 title from back in the day. Really interesting allegory for some pretty heavy social stuff. But it's kind of like a quasi-autobiographical thing. It's not trying to say this is bad or this is good. This is a story, and it kicks you in the feels. And that's much more effective than a story that tries to coerce you into feeling one way or another about something. And that, going back to what makes Resident Evil great is, a lot of people, a lot of the snootier reviewers I find are like, it's goofy as hell, it's stupid, but it's still good, it's still scary. You don't get the point if you're saying it's goofy as hell, but with a Resident Evil game. Or, the Child's Play movies. Or even the Freddy Krueger movies back in the day. There was always this element of goofiness to them, because nobody wants to sit there and be grossed out and horrified and terrorized for, in the case of a movie, 2 to 3 hours, in the case of a game, the Last of Us 2. But oh wait, some people do. The minority of people who think feeling awful about things is the point. Should there be games made for them? Yes. However, the average person does not want to feel miserable playing a game. They want to have moments of light, they want to have moments of dark, and have the game kind of oscillate between the two. That's the sweet spot. A game I thought, intellectually was utterly brilliant because it accomplishes what it sets out to do, but I cannot play it for more than 15 minutes because I just get too horrified and repelled, is the game Papers, Please. It makes its point. I can't handle the anxiety for very long. And that I thought it made the point. Okay, it wasn't very expensive, but am I going to play that game over and over and over again? No, I won't. It's like a video game think piece. Fine, that's its place. But a game I pay $80 for? No, I do not want that. I want something that I can spend 80 hours with and have some light notes. Because it's, well, I understand Resident Evil 8 isn't that long, but it's probably double-digit hours. And, right now, My husband and I aren't even watching like Oscar bait movies because they're too sad, they're too tragic, they're too, well, that was a downer. It's not the time. A game where there are moments that are violent and are scary, but that are also hilarious, and then you get to see this big, really like unique looking, like really well designed. You will not mistake Lady Dimitrescu for anybody else. She looks like what's her name? Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter, in a bad acid trip, right? You're never going to mistake her. She's a very unique looking character. And she's big and she's brassy and it's all over the place, and she's up to here and she's out to here, and there's all this going on. That's comforting, even as it scares you. It is so over the top that you are displaced from your life. And the Japanese do the displacement thing better than any other like artistic sector anywhere. They're excellent at that displacement thing. You watch even Attack on Titan, which is super gory. You're displaced. You are not thinking about the real world when you're watching Attack on Titan. It's just too fucking weird, right? That's what it's intended to do. And I think we desperately need that right now. And so I guess I'm doing it. I'm doing a counterpoint to it's really stupid, but no, it's really stupid and it's scary and it's good. The stupidity is part of the point. And I wish that media critics, they're not going to, so I'm going to do it as a counterpoint. I wish media critics would stop trying to make things be what they want them to be and analyze them for what they are. The artistic intent behind Resident Evil 8 is evident. The developer, or is it calling it Resident Evil Village? The series producer said that Resident Evil 7 was too scary. They wanted more players to be along for the ride and not in constant fear. So they made it more open. They eased up the tension curve, that kind of stuff. So we know they hit what they were going for with this game. And that's the other thing that's awesome about Resident Evil, and is something intrinsic to the franchise. You never quite know what you're in for when they announce a new Resident Evil game, right? They're all very different from the previous ones, and some hit better than others. Games that are multiples of 3 don't tend to be great with Resident Evil. Although I haven't played the remake. Maybe I'm wrong. That one seemed a little bland to me. It didn't feel like a Resident Evil game. But 6 was not great. But then, multiples of 4 seem to be awesome for them. And maybe that's just the cycle of what they decide to try at any given time. But the point is Capcom is allowing them to reinvent themselves. They're reinventing themselves. They're not sitting back on their laurels and go, oh, well, this is popular with fans and this is popular with fans, so we'll just keep doing that over and over and over again. But at the same time, they're listening and going, no, we want to tell our story. We want to do new things. We want to say something. Even if it's just, creating a character that's a step on me mommy villain on the box. They still consider the player when they made the game. They're not trying to torture the player, except in a fun way. And I think that should be held up as a sweet spot in terms of game design. because, they're still providing the scares, but they're doing it in a way where they recognize, especially now, you want to exist on the edge of a person's comfort zone. You don't want to be so far out of it that playing a game feels like a traumatic experience, right? Right. All right. So like I said, Resident Evil 8 tomorrow on Twitch, Resident Evil Village tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm super stoked. I haven't played a horror game in a while. So I'm looking forward to checking it out and having you check it out with me, because I'm sure there will be so many jokes. And that's the point. Like, this is the Blood, I hope it isn't Chris's Blood franchise, right? It is the franchise that launched 1,000 memes, right? Okay, so if you like this analysis, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. I know this was really light, this video, but people are stressed, so I'm going easy. Thanks for watching.